Awesome. Okay, Miss Tawana Houston, thank you so much for having me on your live. I want to say you look very beautiful today. I know
Thank you.
you're
You
on
too, Missy.
vacation and you're having a good time. So definitely thank you so
I
much
am.
for this platform. You guys out there listening, this is an amazing platform. I absolutely love Connect. She definitely, y'all know how they say when people change your life. No, she literally changed my life, right? She literally changed my life. So this is how it got started with me. So my sister took a DNA test, and I didn't know anything about this. This it was called this one was called 23andMe. So I was like, what? And she said her daughter gave it to her for a Christmas present, and I thought that was I said, oh wow, I get to find out people I don't know that's my relatives. So I didn't grow up with a lot of cousins and things like that. So I didn't grow up with my mom either, so there was family members in my mom's tree that I did not know, even her own sister. So I said this will be a great time for me to figure out who they are. And so I took the test. I remember taking the test and I took it and they told me I did something wrong. And so then I let it sit on my table for like a month or 2 months. I was like, "Oh, I ain't got time to go through this." And then finally I said, let me just send this thing on in. So I sent it in and I was looking at it. It didn't really mean a whole. I saw some folks on there I didn't know. So I didn't know many of my dad relatives. I didn't know many of my mom relatives. I just know the immediate folks, right? The immediate folks. So I was looking for my mom folks, right? So I kept looking at it and I saw a couple of strange names on there I didn't recognize. And so then when it came back, it did come back that me and my sister was like half, which I didn't quite get that, understand that, but that still wasn't a real red flag to me because I've heard rumors about that, so I was cool. But I don't know what. Oh, there was one name on there just puzzled me, and it said it was my aunt. I believe it said it was my aunt, and I called Tawana and we saw the name and we kept searching and searching trying to find out who that person was and we just came flat to a dead end. And so then Tawana called me and she said, what did you say your dad name was? And then I told her, she said, okay, let me call you back. And so she called me back about 5 minutes later and she said, so I got some news for you. And I said, huh? You got some news for me? What? She said, girl, your dad ain't your dad. And I'm like, excuse me? And then she said it again. I was like, how was that? And so I was like, look again. You gotta look again. And so his last name was Walker. And then she said, there's no Walkers on your genealogy. I'm sorry. I said, and then we found one. I said, see, there's one. There's one on there. And she said, no, 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 no. It would be a whole lot more. I said, well, maybe they hadn't taken the test. She said, no, honey, they've taken that test. You just not one of them. And so we researched further. We tried to figure out who this lady was, and she traced some folks way back to figure out who my real dad was. To make that long story short, we figured it out, and I was just like so blown away, just blown away. And when she did all the research, and so we found out that I got sisters and brothers that I never knew anything about. And at that time, I was probably what 58 to one. I think I was 58 years old or something like that. And what happened was I reached out to one of the relatives that was on there and led us back to, the sisters and brothers. and I end up speaking to them, and they was blown away. They looked at my pictures. They was like, "Oh no, she's definitely a sister. Like she
Mhm.
100%. We don't even need to go further. She's definitely a sister." And so that's how that went. And we end up fast forward. We did end up couple of the sisters took a test, and it definitely came back. We were sisters. And so yeah, so now I got a whole new family. And most people want to know how I feel about it. So I am the type, it is what it is. Okay. So if you one of the ones out there saying, well, I don't want no surprises in my life. Hey, I got to think about this. If my mom and my dad did not get together, so I wouldn't be here. I I wouldn't be me. You know, however it happened, it just happened. And so I just said, you know what? I have to deal with, how the hands were dealt. This is how the hands were dealt. So I
Mhm.
learned to cope with it, and I learned to deal with it. And the siblings on the other side, they're fine with it. They all accepted me. And we're hanging out. They've been here visiting my house. I've been there visiting their house. We've done some family things together, and we're one big happy family. Yep,
Yep. And people always, you know, you have always talked about how amazing your father was that raised you,
absolutely.
and you never doubted him being your father. So, and a lot of my clients go through the same thing. They grew up in amazing households. They just later found out something different. So I believe things happen for a reason. You get the truth at the right time. You never know what bullet you dodged, and
True.
so on. So it ended up being a beautiful thing. Okay, so let's go through some of these questions, and then I'll circle back to see who has jumped on StreamYard. So let's see. The first question I'm gonna put up here on the screen. Someone said, "How do I approach my biological family after finding them through a DNA test?" So this is a great question because there's a right way to do it and there's a wrong way to do it. Now, anybody can take an ancestry DNA test. Jackie started off with a 23andMe, and then she later took the ancestry test once I explained to her that database is a lot larger, and your older people normally take that test versus the 23andMe. Normally, a younger generation takes that 23andMe. So when you take a DNA test and you see names there, it's important that you do homework first before I reach out to a person. And everybody does it different. But my goal is to learn as much as I can about that person before I call them. So I'm trying to find them on social media. I'm trying to find out what type of job they have. I'm all over Google. I'm looking at their friends list to see what type of people they're connected with so that I have an idea whether this person gonna snap back, whether they're calm natured. I don't know. I'm just trying to learn as much as I can. Once I call it, and then I'm gonna tell you, I'm gonna share. I'm gonna give you guys an answer based on me calling them versus you calling them. So let's say Jackie. Let's get Jackie as an example. Let's say I didn't help Jackie at all. She saw that DNA test, and bam, she saw she had a half sister on there. And just keep in mind, Jackie had no idea how to read the test, and that's the issue with most people. They have the results, they just see a whole bunch of names. They don't understand how to read it, and they have brothers and sisters all over the report. They have no earthly idea. But let's say Jackie could read it and saw she had a sister. Jackie's more of a straightforward person. She probably would have just called and be like, "How you my sister?" But I can see her doing it. But 90% of the people aren't like that. They're going to be scared to call. They're going to be nervous to call. They're going to be worried about rejection. They're going to be worried about how their mother feels because their mother might have never even told them that somebody else was their father. Their father probably never told them that he had outside kids. So they're worried about, they have all these things going on in their mind. If you are that type of person, it's best to have a third party do it. When I call that household, I am fast because I've done all my homework, and I literally call and I say, "Hey, Jackie." I normally will give them a nickname so that they don't think I'm a bill collector. That's the number one thing. It's rare that people even answer the phone from phone numbers that they don't know. So if you are going to call, you need to be straight to the point if you're comfortable with calling. So if her name is Jacqueline on the DNA report, I'm saying, "Hey, my speak to Jackie." Because I don't went on social media and I see how people are addressing her. And so she's going to say, I'm like, "Hey, Jackie." I'm like, "This is Tawana. I'm helping a best friend." I never, ever say that I'm helping a client. I say that I'm helping my best friend. She's been looking for her biological father all of her life. She was told it was XYZ, and you appeared to have taken a DNA test, so I know you're related to her. I wonder if you'll help me, type of thing. If it's a man that answers, I have a totally different approach because a man will instantly shut down when you talking about DNA because he's thinking, "Oh, Lord, it's child support. Oh, Lord, somebody trying to get me for money." So it just depends on who the person is, how old they are. And I'm just going to be as direct as I can. And my goal is to make them feel super comfortable because I have to go back to my client and let them know that I found the person. And a lot of times I'm sitting on information I don't tell my client because I don't feel comfortable yet that they won't be rejected. So I will communicate back and forth with that family for a while. And once I know that they are comfortable bringing my client into their life, then I will let them know about it. So that is my approach. I study before I call. I don't just look for a phone number and get to calling. I have a special approach for when I pick up that phone because they will hang up on you. They may even, think it's a scam. You, on the other hand, I keep saying Jackie because Jackie's more so like me, even though it's her story, she's more direct. But most people aren't. They're just terrified to call. Jackie, you want to add anything to that? Like, how would you approach it? Because let's say this, because even though you are direct, I remember when you had to go to Las Vegas. Remember you were meeting your siblings for the first time. You were a nervous wreck. We were supposed to go together. But I can't remember what happened. I don't know if it was Tony's, my husband's situation. I think that's when his health stuff kicked in, or it was a funeral or something. It was something going on that kept me from going to Vegas. And
I
so
think
you
it
had
was
to
a funeral.
the funeral.
I think it was a funeral. But yeah, I was nervous because I didn't want to go by myself because I didn't know, what to expect or anything like that. So I didn't want to go by myself. So I ended up going by myself. It was my sister's birthday, my twin sister, as everybody says. It was her birthday, and I think her birthday is on Halloween. And I went up there for that and spent some time with them. So I got to really kind of know them at that time. I met quite a few at that time. And the weirdest thing was my niece, my biological niece, my grown up niece, my brother's son, my brother's daughter, and them were best friends. So she knew them all along. My niece that I grew up with, niece knew them all along. So we were all in Vegas together. I'm like, it was just weird. So it's a small world, you guys. I could have married my own brother. I mean, that's just how close. Yeah, that's how close we were. I could have married my own brother, not knowing that that was my brother. And I went to school with some of them, like some of the first cousins, and didn't know that they were my cousins. So I could have been fighting my first cousin or something. It could have been anything. I didn't know.
I wish Deb was on here. Deb is another one of my clients. Her best friends from high school. So she hired me to identify her biological father. So during that journey, I first found her half sisters. When she heard who the half sisters was, these were her best friends from high school. People she talked to all the time was actually her sisters. So it's so true, you know, when you live in that small town, you can end up dating and ain't Lord knows what happens. But yeah, they were her siblings. That's crazy. So this question here is a good question. It's not one that was initially put in, but Tanisha put in the chat. What if the relative isn't initially willing to talk? How do you get around it? Now, what I do is, again, remember, I study them first. So a lot of times you will get pushback. But for me, there's a million other relatives that I can talk to. So I'm going to respectfully apply pressure. Because at the end of the day, I'm there to get answers for my client. So there are other family members that I'm going to call, that I'm going to let them know that, hey, I'm looking for this person that may have put a child up for adoption. I'm looking for this person that such and such and such. They get to texting each other around the family. They gonna get so tired about hearing this Tawana girl that keeps calling everybody in our family that they're gonna pick up the phone to call me. And so that's the way I do it. So I don't put all my eggs in one basket and just call one relative. I have a whole list of relatives. Something else that I wanted to touch on, it's one of the tips I wanted to share with you all. Always look for the eldest. So let's say you're looking for Bobby Brown, right? Bobby Brown's 30 years old. Your goal is to find that grandparent, the oldest person that's still alive. Because 9 times out of 10, they got that phone number that's been in existence for 30 years. They got the same phone number. So your goal is to find that oldest person, and they're pretty much going to give you all the information that you need. Just naturally. But if one person won't talk, somebody else will talk, or you just respectfully push them to open up a little sooner. Let's see. I need help finding my dad's family. This. Absolutely. Have you started? And that's something. I'm going to go through all of these questions, and I'm going to keep Jackie up here because I'm going to bounce it off of her. Also, I see that Mel has joined as well. Yes. Vita, you are so on point with that one. Because most of the time, they already knew the truth. They were going to take it to the grave. They already knew. By the time you find your answers, such and such, be like, well, I always heard about it. I heard the rumors about it. This is a really good tip, finding talking to the oldest. Yes, you have to talk to the oldest person. That's my number one goal. When I go through their relatives, I'm looking for the person 70, 80 years old that's still alive, because that's who I'm calling.
Tawana, let me say this. So, I personally think that every child should have a DNA test. Everybody should have a DNA test. The reason why I say that, you guys know the song back in the day, Mama's Baby, Daddy's Maybe. And that is so true. I was looking at this court case one time, and this gentleman ended up going to prison for like 5 years because non-payment of child support, right? So when he got out of prison, when he got out of jail, spent his 5 years, they were in court and they did a DNA test, and it turned out that he was not the father of the child. And he spent 5 years in prison for nothing, for no reason whatsoever. So my suggestion is everybody take a DNA test. I don't care if it's your wife. It doesn't matter who it is, because let's just get this on the record. And I think it should be mandatory for the fathers to pay child support, but I also think it's mandatory for them to take the DNA test so we can be sure here of who's who.
I agree 100%. Now, I put that in a group one day. Melody, I don't know if you can come over a little bit, Mel, so we all can get in this square here.
Let me see. I'm here.
Okay. There we go. I'm going to do it like that. Okay. So I actually put that in I forgot what a thread social media platform, and they chewed me alive when I said that. And some of them made some really good points, but in the line of work that I'm in, it's too many scenarios where the father had no idea the child even existed, or they were paying child support or taking care of a child that they always thought was theirs. Now, on the other hand, they could have done a DNA test, but they were married, or either, they had no reason to question anything, and so they didn't. But it's unfortunate. I also think about those foster kids. Like, a lot of my clients are adopted, or they went through foster care, and the mother might have been strung out on drugs, so she lost her child. But if there's no name on the birth certificate, they're not pursuing to figure out who the father is. So when this kid is now 30, 40 years old, grown adult, trying to get answers, and I find the father's totally shocked because he didn't even know he had a child out there. So if a DNA card was on file, because I just can't understand it. They do DNA testing, but they don't tap into those large databases like Ancestry that can give them their answers if they just do some homework. But that's a whole nother conversation. But I'm taking a hard pass on that DNA. Sorry, keep me in the dark. Look, B ain't trying to find no more family. Okay,
Well, here's the thing, Tawana. Like, I just got a first cousin. We found out we were first cousins. She was having health issues, and she was wondering for why was she having, where did those health issues coming from? She had no idea. Well, now she just found out that who she thought was her father wasn't her father, right? So, and her father is a diabetic. Guess what? She's a diabetic. She done had cancer, all that's going through the family. And now she understands, where all these issues are coming from. So it's not only for you to find out just because you want to know who your father is, but for health reasons. And sometimes you might need a kidney or something like that, and none of your family who you thought was your family is a match because you don't know who your real family is. So it's really, really important that you really know who your family is. And you maybe want to kept in the dark, but you might have a son or a daughter out there, or a sister or a brother out there that may need to know.
You're so right, because that's and that the story she's talking about just happened last month, maybe.
Yes, Father's Day. It was Father's Day, remember?
Because isn't your uncle a pastor? It was your uncle,
right?
Isn't he a pastor or something?
No, a deacon.
Yeah. And so he found out he has a daughter. Never knew he had a daughter. Never knew. And how old is she? In her 50s, right?
49. 49.
And found out on Father's Day that he has a daughter. He was so freaking excited, y'all. But all this time, he never knew she was claiming somebody else as her father. All this time. Okay, all right. So we have Miss Mel that has joined us. I've known Mel since the 80s from Washington, D.C. And she actually hired me. What is it? How long has it been? Maybe a year or two?
Maybe coming up on 2.
I'm coming up on 2 years. So I'm gonna let her share her story just a little bit because everybody's story is different. One of the questions on here is about siblings. So Mel is trying to identify who her biological father is. So far, we have found cousins and a sibling. And so can you kind of share a little bit about your story and what it's been like? Because one of the questions on here that someone submitted is, from a DNA test, is it possible that I can find my siblings?
It's possible. It's possible. Where do I begin? I had a complete struggle with trying to connect the dots, and I reached out to Miss Houston to help me because it was very confusing. I saw a guy on my test who ended up being a nephew, but I was like, I'm not sure who he is or what's the connection. He thought the connection was on his father's side. And I'm looking on there and I'm like, hold up, I don't see no connection. I don't want to be messy. I'm like, can you help me out, TT? Like, what am I supposed to do? And, you know, eventually I was like, look, I'm tired of trying to figure it out myself. I said, I'm just going to pay you to do it. So that's what I did. And so far I've been notified that I have a nephew. His mom was actually willing to take the test and she took it. And shockingly, she understands that she has a little sister now. We are 31 years apart?
Yes.
31 years apart. And we are still on this search, this journey, trying to find our father.
Yep. And let me tell you all the difference between Jackie and Mel. Now, although Jackie is much older than Mel, Mel's father is going to be an extremely older person. Probably older. I'm not sure how old Jackie's father would have been, but probably around the same age. So the older that the people are that you're looking for, is so many people have passed away, it just makes it a lot harder, but you can still get the answers.
Correct.
There. So we're getting a lot closer. We're barking up the right tree, but you also got to keep in mind that the older they are, you have those family members that want to keep the secret.
Yep.
And they've made it clear that we're not touching this. So you got to dance around all of that. You got to talk to other people and you got to connect the dots. And so they're not touching it, but it's not going to keep us from not touching. But you got to take your time because you don't want them to shut you down completely. KJ is asking, do you think 23andMe is accurate? Absolutely. DNA doesn't lie. So if what the trick to it is, and maybe one day I can do a short class on how to read this stuff. You have to understand you have full relatives and you have half relatives. So if, let's say you have 6 brothers and they all share the same mother and father, your DNA is going to be based on full blood. But if that father stepped out or that mother stepped out and had a child by someone else, now that sibling is a half. So if me and my brother are full and it's showing that we share 3,000 CMs on a report, that's based on full. But then me and Melanie could be half siblings and it's showing 2,000 or let's say 1,500. So when you're looking at it, you may be like, oh, wow, that's an aunt. That's a full aunt. And it's not, it's a half sibling. So the numbers are going to be a lot lower when you're looking at half. That's when you got to really do your homework, do process of elimination, and make it make sense. And that's when the work really kicks in. Because if you just look at it at first glance, you can be like, oh, okay, that's an aunt. Oh, that's the first cousin. Because they're going to label it based on full blood. They're not labeling it based on half. It's your job to do the homework to determine the true relationship between the two of you. So yes, it's completely accurate, KJ, as it relates to the result and the percentages and the centimorgans, all of that is accurate. What's not accurate all the time is the label. And that's when you have to go in and edit the relationship after you've done your homework.
So Tawana, let me help him with that question. So when my sister took the 23andMe, so I went and took the 23andMe. 23andMe had no idea she was my sister. It came back that we were sisters. This a person I grew up in the house with that I knew was my sister. So it came back that we were sister. So that's how I knew they were 100% accurate because we are sisters, right?
Mm-hmm.
It just told me, like it said we were half sisters, but it did tell me that we were sisters. So it's definitely 100% accurate in the bloodline. Like she said, it may not be right on what kin they are to you, but it's definitely 100% correct.
Yep. because you're not going to have anybody on that report that's not DNA related to you, period.
Nope.
That's 100%. It's just you have to figure out how they are connected to you. So Vita is asking, can you find siblings if your parents are deceased or if siblings are whole? Absolutely. So DNA doesn't go sideways. So in order for you to identify siblings, their children had to have taken a test or somebody connected to them have to have taken a test. So you can't just look at the DNA report and say, ooh, I have siblings. They have to be connected to it somehow. Now, if there's another option, let's say there was a rumor going around. They say, okay, your father had this girl named Susie Lou over here. That is his child. But you have no DNA proof. You can communicate with that person and say, hey, I heard there's a chance that we have siblings. Are you willing to take a test? So you can do it that way and get them to take a test and do a straight siblingship test instead of going through the ancestry piece. But no, DNA doesn't go sideways. But if they have children that's on it, grandchildren that's on it, you're going to be looking at that like, okay, I got a nephew on here. I got a niece on here. How's that possible? And then you're going to look into it and figure out who are their parents, because one of their parents is going to be your half sibling. So yes, it just depends on who has taken the test.
And that's what we had to do for my case.
Yeah, because he told us, and this is another thing about people can't read the report, and I'm so thankful for that new feature. You have to pay for it in Ancestry now, but there's a new feature where you can see how you are related to the person and how they are related to everybody that's related to you. I know that was a mouthful, but he said that Melody was connected to him on his father's side, which was absolutely wrong. It was on his mother's side that they were connected, which always made sense. Like, okay, she's from Virginia. This dude here is from California. I'm trying to figure out how he ended up in Virginia and had sex with her mama. It was just so much. But make a long story short, his mom wound up taking a test and everything, and she was his sister. But that's the exact scenario you had there. Okay, so let's see here. I'm going to do one more from the chat, and then I'm going to go to the questions that were previously submitted. How can you tell if a relative is from your mother's side? That's the exact question that is on our list. So I'm going to go ahead and address that one. So how can you tell which side it is? Now, if you know your mother's side of the family, then 9 times out of 10, you're going to recognize some names over there. If you don't recognize the names, start with, let me say this first, 23andMe, it's cool. You can get some relatives from there. It's all right. But I prefer Ancestry.com because people like to build trees there. Now, a lot of times the trees are absolutely wrong because they think this person's their daddy. There's no DNA proof, and they just building a tree with thousands of people in it and ain't even their daddy. So that you will have inaccurate trees there. But you have way more information. You have records there and the whole 9 yards that can help you identify which side. But based on 23andMe, if you know your mom's side, you know the last names that's in her family, you know whether or not, you just got to go with the information that you have. And once you identify which side is your mom's, you're going to click on shared matches. You're going to flag that one as your mom's side, and then the system is automatically going to separate them, and you'll have maternal and paternal on your report. You just got to flag one. So you got to go through your list and identify who is your mom. It may take you some time, especially if you don't know neither side, but you just got to do your homework. And then once you identify which side is your mom's, you just change the label, and the system is automatically going to flag them all maternal, all paternal for the other side.
So okay, I didn't know that, Tawana. I didn't know that about 23andMe, but how I did it before I got on Ancestry. So my sister was on there, right? And I told you guys she was a half sister. So I knew that we had the same mom, but we didn't have the same dad. So what I would do is I would take her and me, and if I saw somebody on there I couldn't identify, if she was a relative to them, that means it was on my mom's side. And
Yep.
if she wasn't a relative, that means it was on my dad's side. So
Mm-hmm.
it'll tell you everybody that me and her have in common. And so if we
Yep.
don't have that common person, that meant it was on my dad's side.
Yep. But all you got to do is label that one person. And so it's automatically going to label anything that's DNA related to her as your mom's side. Now, you have scenarios where family is having kids together. So you'll see where they're on both sides.
Yep.
And that's normally fourth to sixth cousin, be way down there. You rarely ever see that as close relatives. But there have been, you will see scenarios, especially in ancestry, you'll see a bucket that says both. And that's just where relatives have came together, or it's from your siblings, their grandkids and stuff like that, like deep down in there. So it's not all, I hate to say incest, it's not all that, but some of it could just be stemming from your children's children, your siblings and stuff like that. Okay, all righty. So let's get to these questions here. What's the first step in searching? Okay. So this person said, what's the first step in searching for a parent I've never met? Now, I have two answers for this. You've never met them, you have no name, you have no nothing, then DNA testing first. You don't need to have a name to find your biological parent. You just need to take the DNA test and get to work. Now, if you're a lucky one, you're going to get close relatives, hopefully second cousins and above. And once you get that, let me give you an example. Let's say Melody pops up on my DNA report as a second cousin. I'm trying to get in touch with Melody to find out who her parents are. My conversation with her is going to be so direct. She's going to say, my daddy is Billy, my mama's Mona. My question to Melody is, are you sure Billy's your dad? Because what I don't want to happen is I go chasing Billy's tree and Billy not even her dad.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So you want to get to your closest relative, do that DNA test first, get to the closest relative, and then just start digging. Find out who their parents are. Okay, now you done made it to first cousin. Find out who they are. Now you done made it to uncles and aunts. And now you know your parent is one of the siblings of those aunts and uncles. That's where you're trying to get to, that auntie uncle level, because your parent is one of those siblings. So yes, the first step is the DNA test. Now, if you know the person's name, let's say they have a very common name, it's Billie Jean or something, right? Mary Jane, whatever. It's a very common name. Find out if you can get a birthday or at least the age range, and drill your mother. And I'm just assuming, because normally they're looking for a father, but so that's the scenario I'm using. So drill your mother and think about the questions that she may not be thinking of. So age range, when you met, what city did y'all meet in? Do you remember where he used to work at? Who was his best friend?
Mm-hmm.
Right? What did he look like? Was he light skinned? Was he dark skinned? Was he short? Where were some places y'all used to hang out at? All those questions are very important. What high school did he go to? Because then you can start searching through yearbooks and things. Now, the reason why I say do this is because if somebody has a common name, I'm trying to narrow it down, and then I'm looking for their relatives that don't have common names. So anytime I got a person with a common name, once I narrow it down, now I'm looking for the people related to them that don't have common names, because it's easier for me to find their phone number or find them on social media, and then they're going to lead me to the person with the common name. Mm-hmm. So the first step in searching for the parent is DNA test. It's always the first thing that you want to do. If you have a name and you know for a fact that it is your parent, like sometimes if I see a picture, I'm like, oh, okay. I know I'm barking up the right tree here. She looked just like him. And I'll go ahead. I'm like, okay, I'm not going to tell my client that's her dad. But I know I'm barking up the right tree. And then I'm gonna go ahead and have them do the DNA test and so on. But yeah, DNA test first. Okay. The next question is, we already did that one. Let's see. What should I do if a DNA match doesn't respond to my messages? So it's all the time. Now, it doesn't mean that they're ignoring you. A lot of times they're just not paying attention to Ancestry, or they're frustrated. They've taken a test. They don't understand how to read it. They don't have their answers, and they just sick of it. They just don't log in no more. So in scenarios like that, again, I'm trying to find out who they know. So if I can't get in touch with them, I know Tanisha's still on here. I was helping Tanisha recently with her scenario. The reason why I found her two aunties and they called me back so quick is because I called so many people in their family. They got so many text messages from the people in their family that she hurried up and called me so I wouldn't call no more of their family. So when they don't respond, I'm calling their relatives and saying, hey, can you get a message to such and such? And I'm giving details. I'm like, I'm helping. I say the same thing. I am helping a great friend of mine. I'm helping my best friend try to identify who her biological father is. Blah, 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 blah. Can you please help me? Blah, 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 blah. I need this person's name. Because I want them to know that this is juicy. Like, people like drama in the family. They're going to pass that around so quick. But if you just say, hey, I'm calling to speak to Melody, can you pass the message? They never going to give it to her. Mm-hmm. So I give them as much information as I possibly can. And that's why they respond back so quick. So don't worry about it if they don't respond back. It is frustrating at times, but you can find somebody else that can reach out to them. It may take a little time, but you will find it. There's some I wrote down what not to do. Yeah, girl, we've been dealing with it forever. Because I mean, your nephew, you know how long he went? How long he went?
He went a whole year without being online. Yeah.
Yes.
He cash out them.
Oh, freaking yes, that's how I cashed out the man. I sure did. That's another way you can get in touch with people, y'all. They have their cash app on social media. Send them $1 and put a message in the comments. My DJ that I work with now is because I did that. I couldn't find him. He wouldn't answer the phone. I couldn't find nothing on him. So I cashed out him and said, call me. And he's been my DJ forever. Because of that. So that's a great way to contact people too, because they'll see the comment. But yeah, that's how. Yep. Okay. So if someone put on here what not to do. When you are chasing leads, stop working multiple leads at one time. It just confuses you. And you end up ticking people off in the family. So when let's say you're looking at your DNA report and it says Jackie Pippins is a first cousin. And you're like, oh my God, this is perfect because my parent is going to be the sibling of her parents. Stop right there. You may have 3 or 4 other cousins on that list. Just focus on that one. Find out who their parents are. Wait till you can eliminate the lead. Say it's a good one or a bad one before you move on to something else. Because by the time you call so many people, you are going to be so confused and so frustrated and you're going to get nowhere. You're going to sit it down. You're going to come back a couple weeks later, forget everything that you've done. So just focus on one lead at a time. Then you can cross it off your list and go on to the next one. So if that person that you're sending a message to is not responding, then keep on trying to find other people that are connected to them. And then after a while, just kind of table it. And then you focus on the people that they know. I'm mixing up cases now. Is this you that? Yeah, with Kelsey. So yeah. I think anyway, we got so much going on with yours. Okay, so let's go on to the next question. Is it possible to find family members if they haven't taken a DNA test? Yes. So I'm assuming you have a name or something. So if you have a name, yes. So several people have hit me up and just have a name I'm like, can you find this person? I think this person's my dad. Yeah, I'll do that. But I tell them straight up, I can't guarantee that's your father because that's the name your mother gave you. But yes, I will find him. So yes, you can. Now, once you find them, I would suggest doing a DNA test to confirm that they are truly your relative, your blood relative. But yes, you can. Okay, next question is, how can I handle the emotional impact of discovering unexpected family secrets?
I know I shut down for a minute.
Yeah, because for me, my heart is so connected to getting the answers that I have no emotional connection when I'm reaching out to the people. I just want answers. Like for me, y'all been lying all this time. This person needs answers. There's no point in feeling bad about what you did years ago and blah, 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 blah. Let's get this person some answers. So I would suggest, if it's a very sensitive topic for you, especially if you have, it be the moms. Like I'm saying, it be the moms that give my clients the biggest issues because they don't want to tell anything. They feel so much shame. It's like they are keeping their children from getting the answers. When I say children, these are grown people, these 40, 50-year-old people, and their mothers are 70, 80 years old.
Keeping a secret a secret.
Keeping a secret forever. Don't want to give them answers. If it's a touchy situation like that, then just get a third party to do it. That's it. Because when I reach out to the family, I'm not connecting you with them until they are welcoming you with open arms. I'm not going to find your sister Jackie Pippins and say, hey, I found her, call her. I don't do that because if she rejects you, then you're going to feel a certain type of way. If I'm reaching out to them, when I connect you, they are excited to hear from you. So you're not going to feel any type of way. Yes, you're going to be emotional, but it's going to be a different type of feeling. Right? You'll be able to get through it a lot easier because they are accepting you versus rejecting you. Now, there have been scenarios where it starts off a little rough. But by the time I talk to them for a couple of days, and I love doing 3-way calls, I love, messaging 6 people at one time, and I tell them all, hey, I messaged 5 of your other cousins already. I make it clear because I want them to hurry up and get the answers. But I would say the best way to handle it is to have somebody else do it. It don't have to be someone that you hire because you can find your biological parents, so you can get answers for absolutely free if you're willing to take the time to do it. It is a lot of work. I see people on social media all the time, just do an ancestry test and then what? You got to know what you're doing once you get it. You have to, if you're looking at that test and you're reading a relationship wrong, then you're going to be on the total wrong path. So you need to know how to read it in order to get your answers. So I would say just find somebody else. Now, if it's a situation like Jackie's story, Jackie thought, for 58 years, somebody else was her father. So I can imagine out of the blue finding out that that's not your dad. And now somebody else is your father that you never got the opportunity to meet. That could be hard. That would be hard on anybody, especially when you were really close to the person that raised you. So my suggestion is just talk it through and try to get to know the family, right? Because you can find a blessing in everything. You can find a good in every situation. So just, take your time and get to know the family. And if you need somebody else to kind of help you through that, then do so. Okay, so let's see. I'm going to check the comments in a second, y'all. I think this is the last. There's 2 more questions, and then I'll go back to the comments. What legal rights do you have in accessing adoption records? Now, every state is different. some states are closed states like Georgia, and some states are completely open like New York. So if you are adopted, let's say in New York, you just need to order your original birth certificate, and it's going to have your parents' names right there, and you just need to find it. So anytime, and this is anytime anybody hit me from open adoption states, the first thing I tell them is, you don't have to pay me. How about you first order your open records, because they assume they can't get it. Order your open records, get your birth certificate, your original birth certificate. Try to find your parents yourself. If that fails, then hire me to find them. Or if it's too emotional for you, then I got it. But some states are open, some aren't. Now, if it is a closed state, some of them are, once you reach the age of 18, they will open it up, or they'll pass messages. So the adoption agency will act as the third party between the two. So they'll get a message to the family and so on, or they'll release the records after a certain age. Another option is if you have health issues. If you have health issues, you can get the case open whether it's closed records or not. If you can prove that you have health issues and you need to know your parents' history, then you can submit that paperwork to that state. They'll open up the case, blah, blah, blah. And if it's approved, then they'll give you your records. So there's so many different ways to do that.
Have you ever wondered what secrets might be hidden in your DNA? Join us for the most unique experience of a lifetime. Connect LLC's 2-day DNA reveal party in Marietta, Georgia. Dive into the mysteries of your family tree and uncover the truth that's been waiting for you. Whether you're searching for your biological parents, siblings, or just curious about your roots, this event is designed to connect you with the answers. On January 10th and 11th, step into a luxurious Lakeview home where we'll guide you through an unforgettable journey of discovery. From intimate fireside chats to the big DNA reveal, every moment is crafted to bring you closer to the truth. But remember, your DNA testing must be completed by October 10th, 2024 to participate in the reveal. Spaces are limited, so don't wait. Secure your spot today. Visit www.connectllc.com. That's KINNECTLLC.com. Or search DNA Reveal Party on Eventbrite to register and choose our flexible payment plan option. It's time to uncover your story. Connect LLC, connecting you to your roots.